Welcome to Lore and Legend. What happens when love and ambition collide with the fate of an empire? In 31 BC, two of Rome's most powerful men, Octavian and Mark Antony, brought the Republic to the brink of collapse, culminating in a legendary battle that would change the world forever. As we dive into this story of power, passion, and betrayal, ask yourself, was Antony a traitor blinded by love, or a victim of a brilliant political smear campaign? Let us know your initial thoughts in the comments below. By 37 BC, the alliance governing Rome was a lie. The Second Triumvirate, a pact between three powerful men, was rotting from within. In the east, Mark Antony, Caesar's most brilliant general, had abandoned his Roman wife, the sister of his rival, Octavian, for the Queen of Egypt, Cleopatra. A cold fury was building in Rome, a fury Octavian was ready to unleash. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, watched from Rome as his rival fell deeper under Cleopatra's spell. He saw Antony's ambition not as Roman, but as something foreign, something threatening. When Antony and Cleopatra elevated their son Caesarion, giving him the title King of Kings, Octavian knew he had his weapon. The boy was a direct threat to his claim as Caesar's true heir. The propaganda war began. Octavian's agents spread whispers through the forum, painting Antony as a puppet of a foreign queen. They claimed he planned to move the capital of the empire itself to Alexandria. A chill of fear and indignation spread through the city. The heart of Rome felt threatened, its traditions desecrated by a man they once called a hero. The final blow came in 32 BC. A defector delivered Antony's personal will into Octavian's hands. He unrolled the scroll before the Senate, his voice ringing with false outrage as he read the words aloud. Antony's confirmation of Caesarion as Caesar's true son, his lavish gifts of Roman land to Cleopatra's children. It was treason. The senators stared, their faces masks of disbelief and fury. With the Senate inflamed, Octavian made his move. He didn't ask for war against Antony, that would mean another civil war. Instead, with masterful cunning, he procured a declaration of war against Queen Cleopatra. It was a strike against a foreign enemy, not a Roman brother, but everyone knew the truth. Antony, by standing with her, was now an enemy of the state. Antony gathered his forces at Actium on the western coast of Greece. 500 ships, 70,000 men, a vast host drawn from all corners of the east. He felt the familiar thrum of power, the confidence of a commander on the eve of battle. He would crush the boy Octavian and put an end to his ambition once and for all. But Octavian did not attack. Instead, his brilliant general Marcus Agrippa executed a masterful blockade. His 400 ships, smaller but faster, cut Antony's supply lines to Egypt. Antony's vast army was now trapped, caught between Agrippa's fleet and Octavian's legions on the land. The sprawling camp at Actium, once a symbol of strength, had become a prison. Weeks turned into months. The humid air in the camp grew heavy with the stench of disease. A severe malaria outbreak swept through the ranks. Food became scarce. Hope began to curdle into despair. Antony watched as his men, once loyal veterans, began to desert, slipping away in the night to join Octavian's well-fed, confident army. A council of war was held in Antony's tent. The mood was grim. Cleopatra, her voice steady, argued for a breakout. They would smash through the blockade and return to Alexandria to fight another day on their own terms. Antony looked at the faces of his commanders, saw the doubt in their eyes, but agreed. It was a desperate gamble, their only move left. On the morning of September 2nd, 31 BC, the sea was rough under a wet, gray sky. The trumpet's call cut through the air. Antony's fleet, 250 of his best galleys, began to file out of the strait. They were massive vessels, floating fortresses bristling with towers and catapults, but they were undermanned and slow. Outside the bay, Agrippa's fleet waited. His ships were smaller Liburnian galleys, but they were fully manned by rested professional crews. They could dance around Antony's behemoths. As Antony's line formed, Agrippa refused to engage, forcing Antony to extend his line away from the safety of the shore, into the open sea. The battle began with a deafening roar. The clash of bronze rams against thick wooden hulls echoed across the water. Antony's ships were difficult to board, their marines raining down missiles from their high towers. Agrippa's ships darted in and out, smashing oars and using grappling hooks to tear at the enemy, avoiding the deadly head-on rams. For hours, the battle raged without a clear victor. The sea became a chaotic mess of splintered wood, tangled rigging, and sinking ships. The air was thick with the screams of men and the acrid smell of smoke. It was a brutal, grinding stalemate, a contest of endurance under the oppressive afternoon sun. Then something changed. A breeze sprang up from the north. In the rear of Antony's formation, Cleopatra's squadron of 60 Egyptian ships suddenly unfurled their great purple sails. Without engaging, without a signal, they turned and fled south, toward the open sea. Antony saw them go. From his flagship he watched the sails that had carried his love and his future shrink into the distance. Was this their prearranged escape, or was it pure panic? A wave of cold dread washed over him. In that moment all thought of Rome, of his men, of victory, vanished. All that mattered was her. He abandoned his flagship. Transferring to a smaller, faster vessel, he ordered his crew to follow Cleopatra. He broke through the lines, leaving his entire fleet behind. A wave of disbelief and betrayal rippled through his men as they watched their commander, the great Mark Antony, flee the battle he had started. Without their leader, the Antonian fleet's morale shattered. The contagion of panic spread fast. Cohesion was lost. Agrippa's ships swarmed in for the kill. Firebrands were thrown, and soon Antony's majestic warships were blazing pyres, their towers collapsing into the sea. The battle had become a massacre. Octavian watched the destruction from a distance, his face a mask of cold satisfaction. He spent the night on his ship, overseeing the rescue of men from the burning vessels. By dawn, the sea was quiet. He was the sole, uncontested master of Rome's world. The war was over. The next day, Antony's land army, 19 legions of veteran soldiers, learned of the disaster at sea and their general's flight. Leaderless and utterly demoralized, they surrendered to Octavian without a fight. Antony had not only lost a fleet, he had lost everything. In Alexandria, Antony was a broken man, a fugitive. He sent a message to Octavian, offering to live out his days in Athens as a private citizen. He received no reply. Instead, in the spring of 30 BC, Octavian's legions landed in Egypt. The final act had begun. Despite a brief, desperate victory against Octavian's tired soldiers at the gates of Alexandria, Antony's remaining forces deserted him. He was left with nothing. Then a servant brought him a false rumor, a whisper of poison from Cleopatra herself. The queen was dead. His world, already in ruins, finally collapsed. Believing his love was gone, he fell upon his sword. The wound was deep, but death did not come quickly. As he lay bleeding, he learned the truth. Cleopatra was alive, hiding in her family mausoleum. His guards carried his dying body to her tomb. He was hoisted up the stone walls and into her arms. There, the great general who had conquered for Caesar and commanded half the world, died, his last breath a whisper in the arms of the woman for whom he had lost it all. Cleopatra was captured and brought before Octavian. She looked into his eyes and saw no pity, no mercy. She saw only the cold calculation of a victor who planned to parade her through the streets of Rome in chains, the ultimate symbol of his triumph. She knew she would never let that happen. On August 12, 30 BC, she made her final move. An asp, a symbol of divine royalty, was smuggled to her in a basket of figs. She died as she had lived. a queen on her own terms, forever denying Octavian his ultimate prize. Octavian, with a chilling pragmatism, ordered the death of Caesarion. There could be only one son of Caesar. He then gave Antony and Cleopatra a magnificent public funeral, a gesture of benevolence to a Roman public weary of war. He was no longer a warlord, but a statesman. He returned to Rome not as Octavian, but as a savior who had ended a century of civil war. In 27 BC, a grateful Senate awarded him the title of Augustus, the revered one. He retained the trappings of the Republic, but it was a hollow shell. To commemorate his victory, he founded a new city near the battlefield, Nicopolis, the city of victory. He built memorials adorned with the bronze rams of Antony's captured ships, monuments to a war that had ended an era and begun a new one. The Battle of Actium was more than a naval victory. It was the death of the Roman Republic and the birth of the Roman Empire. One man now held absolute power, and he would rule for over 40 years, ushering in an unprecedented era of peace and prosperity, built on the ashes of his rival's ambitions. Thank you for joining us for this epic chapter of Roman history. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and subscribe to Lore and Legend for more historical dramas that bring the past to life.